I'm Aaron Dean, and this is Advocate Today. In the years since the Supreme Court struck down abortion rights, a new survey shows that obstetricians and gynecologists are worried. KFF surveyed hundreds of practicing OB-GYNs about their experiences since the Supreme Court's decision. More than 2/3 said that the ruling has worsened their ability to respond to pregnancy-related emergencies and exacerbated pregnancy-related mortality. About 1/3 of OB-GYNs said that they had patients who could not get an abortion that they wanted. Half of those were in states where abortion is banned. In general, more than 1/3 of the doctors surveyed said that it has become difficult to practice within the standards of medical care, and many are also concerned that this will make it harder to attract new OB-GYNs to the field. First Lady Dr. Jill Biden says that the Dobbs decision has had a lasting impact on women's health. She hosted a conversation at the White House with the assistant to the president and director of the White House Gender Policy Council, Jennifer Klein. Dr. Biden also met with women across the nation who've been denied reproductive care and called on Congress for action.
The Dobbs decision was devastating, and Joe is doing everything he can do to fight back. But the only way that we can ensure that every woman has the fundamental freedoms she deserves is for Congress to make the protections of Roe v. Wade the law of the land once again.
New York is enhancing access to abortion for those seeking it from out of state. The state legislature passed a bill that would legally protect doctors who prescribe abortion medication for out-of-state patients. It also ensures that medical providers in New York will be able to provide telehealth services to patients in states where abortion services are outlawed or restricted. Providers are also protected from out-of-state litigation and from professional discipline as long as they comply with their practice. President Biden announced $575 million climate resiliency regional challenge. It's aimed at helping coastal and Great Lakes communities become more resilient to extreme weather and other impacts of the climate crisis. The president also announced an investment of more than $2 billion to modernize the nation's electrical grid to become more climate resilient.
That clearly show climate change is a genuine, is the existential threat to humanity. The existential threat to humanity. I've never been more optimistic in my life, and the reason I'm optimistic is because of this generation. It's the best educated, the most engaged, the most involved, and the most consequential.
Biden will also host the first ever White House summit on building climate resilient communities with local, state, tribal, and territorial leaders later this year. Well, one climate activist in Florida is traveling more than 200 miles to raise awareness, and he's doing it on a skateboard. Laughlin Artz is the executive director of 2030 or Bust, an organization devoted to raising the alarm and educating others. Art's skateboarding journey is part of the World on Wheels tour. I spoke with him about his journey and what he believes are the keys to making a difference. Recently, you skateboarded the Sunshine State to shed light on climate change. My first question, are you exhausted? Your legs hurt, your feet hurt. How are you feeling? And how do you think, how do you feel to do that? And what do you think came the result of it?
Okay, well, so first of all, I feel better than when I left. Okay, so I got a good tan, which is a good thing. We're skating in Florida, right? And I'm not sore. I mean, it was pretty great. I'm not a great skater, so I do like 10 miles a day. Okay, so it took me about 20 days to do the 200 miles, and we called it the World on Wheels tour, and we wanted to bring some sunshine to the Sunshine State in terms of the facts of the situation. So we have an event that happens at the end of May every year called World on Wheels Weekend. And that's where skaters all over the world get together, do skate events, competitions, tricks, demonstrations. I mean, demonstrating on, how to do skateboard stuff. And in conjunction with climate actions, things like beach cleanups, composting events, tree planting, things like that. But again, to bring bring the message out to the people that your actions make a significant impact. And if we take the right actions between now and 2030, we can effectively bridge the gap. So those were events happened all over the world. And so I took May to be the World on Wheels month, all right, and did the World on Wheels tour where I skated from Orlando to Fort Lauderdale. So, but the point being is that both in the matter of people's relationship to people and drag queens and trans people and all the other nonsense that's happening in Florida, both in people's relationship to that community, of which I happen to be a proud member, and people's relationship to the climate crisis, the issue is that people are related to it by their thoughts and notions and opinions and not by what's actually happening in the world. So our whole focus was, it's time to get out of our heads and into the world. And that's where it's actually happening. And that's where the action actually makes a difference. So that was the thing we did. And I got to meet some amazing people, made some great connections in terms of work that we're going to now be doing in Florida with some school systems, it looks like, and lots and lots of great connections. So it's a great thing when I skate because I'm out with people and I run into people and I talk to people, and it's, no offense, I mean, here we are, but it's a lot different than Zoom.
Yes, I'm 100% sure that it is, because you get to actually interact with them.
Or yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you ask, everybody's got their own notions about the climate crisis, and the problem is their notions about it. Not that they can't do anything, but they're kind of locked in this trance of all the stuff that people are telling them that's just not accurate.
Well, you had mentioned a while ago about what people can do. What are some of the most critical actions that you, like me, anyone can take to help, reduce the greenhouse emissions and all that's happening with our climate?
Absolutely, absolutely. So first of all, let me tell you that we have an app called the 2030 or Bust app, which you can get at the Play Store, the Google Store, or you can get on the Apple Store. And it actually, you have the opportunity there to pick the actions that you're going to take that day. And then it tracks both your budget and the global budget of everybody else who's participating on the app. So one of the biggest things that anybody can do is to move toward a plant-based diet. And people just aren't aware, for example, that it takes 660 gallons of water to produce a quarter pounder. That more of the Amazon rainforest is destroyed for industrial farming, which is feeding the cows that then get eaten by humans, than anything else. So there's a huge, huge knockoff effect if you move away from meat toward more of a plant-based diet. The other thing is to stop using plastic, or only use single-use plastic. Because again, one of the myths that's out there is, well, it's okay if I use plastic because I recycle. Well, only 8% of the world's plastic gets recycled, including much of what people are putting in their recycling bins. Oh. So much, much better. And soon there are going to be more plastic bottles in the ocean than there are fish. So it's, but again, it's those kind of things that when people get that kind of simple kind of education, just the facts, it's like, okay, well, now I'm not going to eat that hamburger, but not because I'm sacrificing something or because I'm so noble or so good or anything like that. No, that as someone who's actually taken the stand to end the climate crisis, that's how I'm expressing that stand today. I'm living my life as someone whose actions make a global impact. And this is the action and the global impact that I'm making today.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all this information. I really, really hope that whoever's watching, takes something away from this and understands, like you said, don't look at this as a later issue.
We're all in the same boat. This is our deal. It's our future. So it's either going to go the way it's predictably going to head, or we're going to interrupt it, and we're here to interrupt it.
Thanks for watching Advocate today. You can download it in the App Store or Google Play Store, or you can even stream us live on theadvocatechannel.com. I'm Aaron Dean, and this was Advocate Today.